Derivar.
Okie dokie. Welcome everybody to this week's Developer Roundtable. We've just got Robert here today. So we're just going to kick it off with, as soon as I open up that file. So we're going to kick it off with the new minimap. So what's new about it so far?
So we've been looking at a lot of the feedback and kind of how people have been playing the game since inception, and we've just kind of noticed that it's lacking in a lot of areas. And I'm just gonna kind of go through the areas that we're just kind of like earmarking for fixing right now, and what we're working on early into next week to wrap up the first couple cards of 1.3. So one of the first things is a better indicator of where your units are and where the infection is. I think someone suggested in the Discord earlier, I think it was yesterday, that we should consider having it to where there are red blobs or red circles that show up on the map, kind of like in Prototype 2, with like some opacity applied to it, so then that way you can actually see like when the infection's spreading, you can get an indicator not only when you're looking around the world, but you're also like moving the map, you're looking on the mini map. You can kind of get an idea of like, oh, it's already taken half of Angel. Oh, it's already taken a quarter of Presidio. So then that way, the minimap actually gives you more situational awareness, like it does in other RTS games. One of the other things was basically just kind of making sure we get rid of all the clutter that's on the minimap, because we have a lot of icons that you can't even make out what they are. So going more in the direction of StarCraft, Red Dragon, I think even like Grooves and stuff like that, where basically it's more of just like color blobs that signify your units and their unit movement, and then that way it's easier to tell at a glance, oh, they're coming towards me. Oh, my units are being, shot at. And a couple other things that we were looking at was making it so we can rotate the minimap, A, as well, and then B, also making it to where when we actually send an alert, you don't have to always remember to press the comma key to jump to it. If you click on the alert, there will actually be like a little like invisible button there that will jump you to the exact location of wherever your unit just took damage from, instead of you having to kind of like have pinpoint like inhuman accuracy to like figure out exactly. Because typically when you click on the mini map, because of how large the map is, you never exactly go to where you need to go. So the idea, yeah,
I
it
found
has
that quite difficult a few times myself, yeah.
yeah. So I've noticed that. I've noticed people playing and having those issues. They click in the general vicinity and then they scan over or they screen over. So we'll have the comma key. So because every time there's an alert, you press the comma key, it jumps you to the action. But then we're gonna have that mark. And it's going to be an invisible button that will elapse and exist for a couple of seconds. And then that way, you'll be able to jump over and immediately know what's going on, and you don't have to waste precious seconds figuring out your orientation of like, am I a block over, or did I, like any number of things. Um, as you can see, I'll switch over. Well, it's on the development Discord. It's also on our roadmap pages. Is that we have it to where we have the socks clearly labeled in terms of basically their income on the mini map. And that's realistically what we're looking at doing for the mini map. And then we added the transparency, we cleaned it up, we improved the quality of the mini map. Um, we're still Zoom's obviously on there. We're not sure if we want to make it to where the mini map dynamically moves as you move. Like if you zoom in, it'll track you. That's something that we're kind of like waiting until next week to test more with. Um, we had some of the normal HUD's progress bleed over. So essentially, we're putting the finishing touches right now on the music player, the civilian administration widget, and the global purchase tree, where basically like in some of the older UIs, kind of like in Age of Empires 2 and 3, if you look at the very top right, you can see a queue of everything that you're building on the island at any given time. And then you can click on it to go to where they're being built. And you can right click it to cancel units being built anywhere on the island. Something along those lines will kind of like trying to get in there because we have such a large, expansive world, and as it gets larger, it's going to become very unyieldy to know what's going on in any part of the world. So, like, if you have 20 fences being constructed, it'll show like an icon of like a fence, and then it'll show a number. And then, as the total amount of those fences are being constructed, it'll fill with like a percent bar. The number will decrease, but like it'll be like a dynamic like accounting of when all of those fences are going to be done. Or it'll be like you're building like units in a barracks. It'll show based off of groupings of where they're being built, so you can know, oh, this is when all these assaults are going to come. So that's the idea. It's like, and then when we introduce DNA research, you'll be able to track your DNA research progress from there at a quick glance. And it'll just be like a little ribbon on the top right. So to kind of go into the mini map a little bit more, we also took all of the top left icons and we built that around a spiral for the doctrines window. So
Will will the locations of infected still blink?
when,
Every now and then
when
when
they're
I
attacking
use
you,
when yeah, will that be a more prominent thing, or will it just be like an area thing still?
I mean, it'll just be a radial kind of like effect. We try and get your attention, but then basically if you ignore it, you ignore it. I mean, um, I think it's invasive enough. Are you saying it's too subtle?
I just feel I haven't noticed it. But I'm blind as hell.
Okay. I thought it
I
was
don't
pretty
notice a lot of
invasive.
things myself.
Yeah, because it makes a noise too. But I guess I'll double check that one. But I'm pretty sure it's invasive enough because it makes a noise just like StarCraft 2, and then it sends a mini map notification to the bottom left where it's like an animated, like red cross, and it gets bigger, and then it dissipates. So maybe
Yeah.
we're not. I don't know. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure we do that invasive enough. What else you got?
The new command button UI. So I
Yeah.
haven't really sat in much about the new command button UI, so you're gonna have to take full command of this one.
Okay, so we call the command buttons the GUI at the bottom right of the game. We just gave her a cleaner GUI, a cleaner interface. That seemed a little bit more modern in terms of basically just like it wasn't as because we originally based that idea off of Solaris' tutorial, which was basically a very straightforward, very simple tutorial that gives you a very basic idea of the game and how it plays. We realistically will not be redoing it and doing a whole new tutorial until the game is for pandemic mode is like like it's done. Like 1.4, 1.5 is when I would expect the next like facelift on the tutorial. Realistically 1.5. When we get to the point of the campaign is when we'd be like, okay, like the pandemic mode's not going to change like in huge like changes anymore. It's mostly solidified. Now we're going to be adding new mechanics and systems over time, but let's just basically make a proper tutorial that teaches the mechanics of the game at that point. So right now, it was just a facelift visually, and then when all the mechanics and systems are into it, we're sure that it's not going to change anymore. Then we'll go in and refine it and redo the text, and probably add some more dynamism reactivity to where it's an actual tutorial where it's like it'll make you do things and it'll lock out the AI to where they can't do things in the world until you learn the game. Because that's what we used to have a really old tutorial where like it would essentially like what's the word I would say? It would limit Chelsea's growth until you had done certain things, and it would forcibly have some things occur in the world to teach you defending, attacking, and stuff like that. And that's ultimately what we need to get back to, whether it be in the confines and we do it in tutorial in like the pandemic map. In my mind, I personally like the armor approach, which is what we might gravitate more towards by a byproduct of having Alcatraz Island created, or if we do the campaign, is that in my mind, I'd rather just have like test scenarios, like on Alcatraz or in like a simulation that basically it's like a quick little like test map that we throw together that kind of teaches CERC operatives like how to conduct themselves, like basically like an orientation almost, kind of like what Arma does for Arma 3, um, for the little VR stuff they do. But again, that's something that we're going to look into and explore and pull our options as we get closer to 1.4, 1.5, and then obviously by having those extra assets available from the campaign that will allow us to, expand upon things and add more greater depth where things are just kind of like, good luck, go on Discord and ask questions and die a lot. By the way, did I mention you were going to die? So that's basically how the game runs right now, where it's like you learn by failure a lot. But anyhow, yeah, that's all I have for the tutorial, girl.
Okie a new airstrike UI now. I'm quite excited for this one because I like the airstrikes.
So let me switch that back over.
what's coming early next week for main menu pause screen?
Okay, so next week we're gonna be redoing tearing out the entire game's UI, but the remaining aspects of the UI. Our focus was the gameplay last week and the week before that. We're by Tuesday, Wednesday, we're gonna be on the precipice of doing the main one. That should take a couple of days as well, and essentially we'll be just getting rid of and basically re-solidifying that main menu. There's an example, a mock-up on our roadmap website that goes through kind of the new aesthetic we're going to be doing, pushing. It'll look like cleaner. It'll basically it'll show your last games that you've been playing recently all the way at the bottom on the home page. The center will kind of show like dev news, roadmap updates, like it'll have a link to this podcast that we go to, so that people want to just join from the game's main menu, they can. Links will open in the Steam browser instead of opening a browser URL. So that way things are cleaner and more elegant. You have to worry about constantly minimizing the game. Um, this is a good one. We'll be putting in the time to make a preset system. The preset system will start the basis of either being a shareable INI file or a shareable save file. We're pushing for INI files, so then that way you can make runs, you can customize the game to your wins, and then you can share them with your friends and load them online. We'll probably end up making like a Discord forums thread where people can like put up their own like runs and update them or manage them or whatever. And then we'll be looking at the community suggestions for like things they want to ingest. And like there was a poll, not a poll. It was like a community Google Doc that someone made that essentially it had like community suggestions of modifiers or aspects of the game that people would like to be able to ingest. Like everyone runs, everyone walks, no juggernauts, no special infected, only standard infected. You might break the balancing of the game, but how you have fun is your business when it comes down to it, if that's how you want to play the game. So we'll be basically going in and essentially adding in some preliminary settings next week, and then we will be adding that in so you can share those INI files, and you'll be able to name them, associate a picture with them, and that way you can share them with your friends or share them on Discord or whatever else. You put them in some preset directory in the game's install folder, and then boom, there you go. Now you can have basically like that guy made a classic Resident Evil run where everyone walks and no one's allowed to run, but he increased the spawns of the infected, and then he like stuff like that basically. Just keep in mind that will allow you guys to like do these custom settings, but some of them like if you do settings that are going to cause performance issues, like you increase the spawn of infected or whatever, or you go above like safe numbers, when they load the preset, it'll give them a warning saying like, hey, be aware, this preset is configured in a way where you have to have a very good processor or you have to have a very good video card because it's going to require, because they tweak this number X high, then you can modify it and resave it and make changes yourself. So that's the direction we're going in for the preset system and the custom game options. Is they'll be able to be externalized and saved and shared. Um, we'll just kind of go from there. That's one of the major changes that people are going to really like notice with the new UI for non-gameplay elements. Everything else is just going to be making sure the pause screen and the video options and the audio options are consistent, making sure that they're all the same size, whether you're in the main menu or you're in the gameplay, you're in the actual gameplay, like playing in the game, um, that kind of stuff. And then let's see. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the main menu. Because again, the biggest thing is just the presets that are coming down the pipe.
Okie merging ROE with visual options.
What is that?
Merging visual ROE. Sorry, no. Merging ROE and visual options. I had a bit of a brain fart there.
Oh, right. So we this kind of goes into what I talked about earlier, but essentially, if some of the pictures that I was showing previously on the announcements and on the live stream were, let me just pull that back up to the line. Okay, well then I'll have to fix that later. So again, the visual element would be basically to make it to where essentially when you click on the gear, it would show the it would show the visual options and it would show the ROE. And then a lot of the ROE elements were moved over to the visual element because they were just visual. They didn't affect gameplay. But we still kept the ROE options that allowed you to configure, aspects of gameplay that were important to people. So that way everyone kind of gets the best of two worlds, and we're slimming down the UI, and we're making it to where the focus is more on the game, and it's not just a busy, like clunky UI where stuff's everywhere. So again, this week, the next couple of days, we're gonna slim down the right side of the UI and try and get away get to kind of combine and minimize and reduce as much visual clutter as we can. Um, and then, yep, that's it at that point for the UI. Back to you, Jenna. That's sorry, Jenna Derivar.
Got my name wrong.
And
Anyway, new helicopter rappelling UI. There's
oh, I kind of
also
yeah. So basically, it's kind of what I mentioned earlier, though. So I kind of went over it briefly, but again, it's for getting out of vehicles. It's for rappelling. Is the basic premise is it now tells you what weapon they have, how much ammo they have, what seat they're in, and then you can use that information to determine, oh, I want these three guys to leave. I want those three to stay. I put the wrong two in the wrong order, so now the people that are on the skids of that little bird are not who I want there. So let's, pop out these guys and put them back in. So basically, the idea is it's easier to kind of get an idea of like who is where based off of the names and the guns they have, so you can better organize people on a vehicle. I guess one thing that just comes to mind right now is we might want to consider drag and drop for when you're on the like the disembark thing. What do you think, Derivar? You
I
know what I
think
mean by
that
that?
might be a good idea. Yeah, I do like the drag and drop idea.
Because like let's
Then
say
just
for
like
instance you want to move someone from the interior of a little bird to the skid to shoot. In the game right now, you would have to basically pop both people out and then play musical chairs. Even with the chains that I'm suggesting, it shows you the seat, so it gives you a leg up. But realistically, I feel like the final like solution, the final method for that would be making it to where you could just drag people around, besides the driver, to reseat people in a vehicle. So that might be something that I just kind of came up right now that I'm gonna write down, and we're gonna try and fit that in going into Monday. Let me just write that down just one moment. Drag and drop. What else do we have on the list, sorry?
um, I think that's all for the list you've given me.
Okay, so I put that in the channel. We're gonna talk about that on Monday and see if we can figure out something to fit it for the time constraints that we have. Um,
Something
yeah,
something someone did mention though, something I think we should talk about because it hasn't been mentioned
heavy with it.
is plans to refine horde mode.
What do they want to see in horde mode?
They haven't really specified what they want to see, but all they've got here is there any plans to refine Horde mode? I have noticed we haven't really been covering or touching base on Horde mode.
I wasn't sure how popular Horde mode was. So when it came down to it, it seemed like everyone was more prevy on Pandemic. So we've been focusing all of our resources on there. There was a plan to make 3 more maps for Horde mode. There was a plan to basically expand the size of some of the Horde maps to basically accommodate more playstyles and not make it as rigid in terms of their design structure. But those ideas were kind of put on the back burner in the TVA while we were focusing on Pandemic because of the limited amount of resources and people that we have on the team. So, is that what you're looking for, or are you looking for something else?
They've got so there seems to be some issues with difficulty scaling.
Yeah, because the Juggernaut's covered in clap. I'm assuming that's the issue. Is that when the Juggernauts come clapping, they don't stop clapping? Yeah, that's the issue. There is a tweak we need to do to the balance for that. I think realistically it's changing one number for the Juggernaut. Their percent chance of spawning needs to be lower by quite a bit. Add a couple of zeros. And then that way they wouldn't scale as aggressively to the point where the Juggernauts are all Juggernauts by wave like 20 or 30. And then you're just like GG. Because then at that point you have to have so much explosive weapons on the field that it's like, what is going on? So, tell you what, let me note that down. And I will go in myself and fix that on Monday. What's up?
They've also got on the base map there isn't much difficulty, and on the railway you get hit with 6 jugs in the first wave. Damn, 6 jugs on the first wave.
Are you sure it's 6 in the first wave?
They've got 6 on the first wave.
I'll double check that. That must be a. Okay, I'll double check that. That doesn't sound right. Michael was the one that was in charge of balancing for those maps. Maybe he's just horrible. I mean, horrible in terms of making you guys want to feel pain. So, it probably is that. He probably was just like, you know what? This is a challenge mode. I'm going to challenge you. So, that's probably what Michael was doing there.
6 juggernauts in, the first minute of the game.
Let me. I'm going to go look at the numbers myself. And if they're a little too high, I'm going to tweak them myself. And then they'll stay that way. Because I think that might be a case of him just making it real too hard. Because he knows how to play that way. But not everyone's going to be able to know what to do when 6 Juggernauts show up. Like, that's micro. That's a lot. That's exactly knowing what weapons to use. Because he balances the game. And he also does the maps. So it's like he knows exactly what weapons to get and what time to destroy that amount. And then still kill all the other ones that are coming in. So that might be what's going on there. And because the average user, because, give me an example. Most people don't know there's a damage over time, and some weapons have very, very high, like, fall-off rates, where it's like, their damage doesn't hit a curve until, like, 200 meters, 300 meters. He knows all that. So he knows what weapons to use to basically min-max because of their efficiency and what calibers they are. So that's something that we're going to be looking at adding the UI as well in the next couple of days going into Monday, Tuesday, is that you're going to get like a graph that was on the dev updates and it was on the screen on the Twitch stream, the YouTube stream, where basically it shows like the damage fall off for a gun. So you can have more information of like what we've been talking about behind the scenes for months, is that the face value of a gun's damage is not the whole picture. It's like we tried to make them like realistic ballistics as humanly possible, similar to like a Battlefield or a Call of Duty, where certain guns are really, really proficient in certain environments, and then once you start to hit range, like a shotgun, it's even more painful than you think it would be at range. But yeah, that we're gonna look into that. I'm gonna look into that on Monday. What else we got, Derivar? Is there anything else you want to pick out before we conclude?
No, not that I can think of anyway.
Okay.
Let me have a look, see if anyone's got any really good questions. If not, then They can wait for the AMA. Oh, here we go. Any ETA on the second book in audiobook format. I loved the first one.
Oh, the last line. Yeah.
Hmm.
I actually don't have an ETA on that. So you finished it all the way through? You liked it? I can't see the chat because if I click on it, it's gonna scroll through the stream. But Durham, I got
Yep,
through my
that's right.
eyes.
I'm looking
Um,
now. I'm not sure if the person who asked that question is still here.
you probably left because it was probably a while ago. But for people that listen to catch this on VOD later on, for the audiobook, we don't really have an ETA on that. Again, it kind of just depends on how well the book sells. We're kind of waiting and seeing, like, is there a demand? People like it? How many people ask for an audiobook? Because a lot of people like the audiobook for the novel, like when that came out. And I did a free giveaway on Discord the day it came out. I'm probably gonna do another free giveaway, um, probably in the next week or so on Discord. So if you want a free copy of the audiobook, keep an eye out on the announcements. Um, but yeah, that's all I got there, Durbar.
Yep. Um, all the others seem to be long form answers, so they'll have to wait for the AMA.
Give me one. The hardest
Okay.
one.
The hardest one. Okay.
The
The
hardest one.
hard, the hardest one would be. Do you have any plans for advertising the game? It could really use some marketing. I kind of get the feeling that the player base is stagnating because the lack of new people coming in. That's the hardest one I can find.
That is a hard one. You're a dick. No, I'm joking. So, um, how do I answer this? So the simple answer to that is we've already reached out to a lot of YouTubers and they're waiting until the co-op is in. They're waiting for co-op or they're waiting for the campaign. So we've already reached out to thousands of YouTubers. And at this point, we're at the same point as them where it's like they don't want to cover us until it's more finite, it's more complete, there's more content, especially people that have covered us already in the past. And because we're indie, we don't have the money to do an advertising budget. We literally fund ourselves. We fund the project ourselves. We don't have a publisher, so it's one of those things where we make all of our money from the game sales, support packs, the books, side stuff that basically helps fund development of the game. And then at that point, we're basically just working within our means to essentially just get the game to where it needs to be, so we can reapproach the really big YouTuber channels that we've approached previously and let them know, hey, we fixed these things, we added this co-op, we did this campaign. This is what you're waiting for. This is what you wanted, basically. So ultimately, that's the situation we're in from a PR marketing standpoint. I mean, obviously there will always be people that will reach out to and they'll cover it regardless because they love the game and they like what we're doing. But it's always just a mixed bag in terms of basically just expectations. So, but yeah, we generally try and get new YouTubers on board. We have an email list that we add every, what would you say, probably every couple of days. So we do emails probably 30 to 40 a week, if not more. So yeah, we're constantly doing that. We're working within the means of being indie. Who asked that question anyway?
That was. Yeah, let me pull back up Discord chat. That was a person named Herbert.
Covert. I don't think he's here anymore. Oh, he is here. Okay, so I did answer his question. I was curious if he was still here. So, that otherwise you have to catch it on the YouTube thing. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. So I think
There's a
that's
lot of
pretty.
people giving praise right now.
Oh, they
People
are.
saying, "I love the work you guys. You work, guys." If English could be my first language. Also love. Someone's out here also love the work you guys do, and got people on YouTube are saying you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you guys. We really do appreciate it, and you figure it's been a long road, but I'm confident that at the end of this year, the game is going to be in an amazing place based off of just how quickly you're going to see us just kind of roll on this 1.3 roadmap. Or it's going to be like we're going to be like at the AI, and even at the AI stage, the game is going to have so much more than it didn't have previously for replayability and for just having fun then I'm really excited to see where we're gonna be at the end of the year. Especially even though you added the co-op, like we're gonna have to reorganize our entire Discord to make it to where like people can make groups and play together in the Discord, and then I'll be in there, some of the developers playing with people from time to time, and make Durvar come too.
Why? Why must you make me come?
You're coming. But anyway, yeah, let's
But
wrap it up from there though, because I'm already late for a thingy.
all right. Well, okay. Well, we shall wrap it up there. Thank you very much, Dark, for coming along and being here with us, and thank you all for coming in and viewing and chatting and being here and listening. If you would like to support the further development of Cepheus Protocol, please head over to the Discord where we have a tab that takes you to the Patreon and the merch store.
Or just buy a support pack on Steam. If you want to get a cool skin, consider that. That does help us. I know it seems kind of like weird, but like $2, $3 does go a long way. It's totally optional. It's just like 2 or 3 skins or whatever. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming, and we'll be here next week.